Hey, assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome to Ramadan FM. I hope you guys are pumped and as hopefully not fatigued from the fasting, and everyone is surviving well. Welcome. This is Black and Muslim in Britain Week 2 Takeover.
Whoop whoop.
Woo! We are taking over. So we're back for episode 2. Last week we started the Black and Muslim in Britain Ramadan FM collaboration where myself, Mohammed, Sakina Lanwa and Soraya Bar, the producers and founders of Black and Muslim in Britain online series, are here to give you a Ramadan bite size of everything black, all things hype and loads of excitement in the show. So my name is Mohammed and we're here with Soraya. Tune in every Saturday during Ramadan from 4 p.m. until 5 p.m.
Yes, we are live on Ramadan FM. You can log on to the website www.ramadanfm2018.com. I hope that is the right website that I'm giving. We are also streaming live on Facebook. So if you go on the Ramadan FM Facebook page, you can see us live and direct as we are coming through the radio waves. If you want to get in touch or be part of the discussions, you can call the studio number on 0333 011 6786. That's 0333 011 6786. Or you can tweet us on Ramadan FM 2018, and you can also tweet us on our own personal Twitter handle at BMB Project.
Awesome. Today we are talking about the stereotypes of black Muslims. This was one of the most popular videos of the Black and Muslim in Britain series that we released as part of the 30th anniversary for Black History Month in Britain. The video was known as "What are the strangest things you've experienced as a black Muslim?" And this video managed to garner around 500,000 views, including not beyond UK. In fact, we had
It was international.
It
went global.
It was an international output and a manifestation of what it is like to be black and Muslim in Britain. Totally convenient, isn't it, Soraya? It really is. It really is. So what we're going to do, we're going to share a clip of that, and we're going to talk about the episode and what the sort of ripple effects it's had with the conversation around being black and Muslim in Britain, and just overall actually discussing the sort of intersections between culture and faith and what that looks like in Britain today. And
just if you probably missed us last week, you can still catch up on the show, which was led by Sakina and Mohammed last week, by watching the videos on Facebook. But I'll just summarize what exactly was the Black and Muslim in Britain video series and how it came about. So yeah, we're just going to play a snippet of that now, inshallah.
Okay, we're still playing about with the video. We're going to get that up live soon. And what the video discussed really was looking at both light-hearted and very serious conversations around the strangest things. Do you think, Soraya?
Yeah, I think what happened was, and I don't know whether we did it intentionally or not, but it started off very light-hearted, talking about the funny things that you hear, and then it kind of like took a turn where there were very serious anecdotes that people were saying. So if we just play that clip now, we can then really.
Okay, so this was around the first time I started to wear my hijab, like the other traditional way, like that. And I was in the toilet and I was fixing it, and this girl looked behind me and she was like, "Oh, mashallah, when did you convert to Islam? This and that." And I was just like, "Yeah, I didn't convert, I'm just black."
Are you a Reaver brother?
I don't know if other races get this, but I remember once when we were performing, and after our performance, and obviously our performance was in Arabic, we were singing Arabic songs, we were talking about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and I had a hijab on, and I was like proper covered, dressed, hijab down, and then a beautiful sister comes up to me and says, "Oh, are you Muslim.
When they ask you, oh, so when did you revert to the religion?
Someone would see me and say, when did you convert? Rather than, is your mum Muslim, is your dad Muslim? Like that conversation doesn't take place first. It's always, when did it happen? It's kind of like, there's always like a timestamp for Black Muslims.
I used to hear this quite a lot when I was in university, because I used to have a silver tooth. What prison did I embrace Islam?
I'll meet a non...
Okay, we're back. This is Mohammed and the superstar.
Huh? Who, me?
Yeah.
No, that's you, Mohammed. I'm going to give that title to you. You know, mashallah. Mo Rights.
Right.
Hey, Mo.
She's entertaining. She's entertaining me. So going back on this episode 2, the strangest things you've experienced as a Black Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you watch this video online. It's available on all our platforms: Facebook, Black and Muslim in Britain, Twitter, Black and Muslim in Britain, B&B Project actually, and YouTube, where you can find a full episode. What was your favourite part from the episode, Soraya?
I have so many different favourite parts. I just like the video in whole, but I think the one that really made me laugh was when Habiba Kande said that when he used to attend university, he had a silver tooth. So a lot of people will ask him, which prison did you revert to the religion? Because of that stereotype of, most Black men or young Black men convert or come to the religion because they were introduced to it through prison.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Actually, that's actually quite deep, but I found it hilarious.
Yeah, I'm sure with a lot of these the stories that people were telling, even I think the person who experienced that can look at the in the most awkward way possible, like the light side to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, sometimes I've had a few experiences where eventually, beyond the immediate trauma of what had just taken place, in the future tense, you kind of look back and laugh at it. So I totally understand if you say it makes you laugh. Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
What was your favourite part?
I had a few. I really liked the story of Rakeen Nias, who was in the mosque, and he came into the mosque, and it's like, and you know, this is like youthful innocence, right? And he doesn't tell us how old this kid was, but I immediately pictured a really young boy, maybe like 8 or 9 years old, and then he walks into the mosque, and then he's praying. And when he finishes praying, the child says to him, and this is a boy of South Asian heritage, but we're not really sure of where in particular. And the boy says to him, "Oh, are you Muslim?" And then Rakeen is like, "Yeah, of course I'm Muslim." And he you know, claps back towards the kid and he says, "Are you Muslim?" And the kid's like, "Of course I'm Muslim." And then Rakeen says, "Oh, I don't know, you could have been Hindu." And I thought that was one very, very funny. I just couldn't stop laughing when we were filming that at the scene. I can't remember if it was me and Sakina in the room.
It was you and Sakina, because I was doing the production running.
Yeah, I remember I had to pause. I'm sure I cracked up for a minute. I was like, okay, get yourself together, let's get filming through. But it was a moment where I just internally just couldn't stop laughing. But it also had a lot of really serious message behind it.
It did, because if I can piggyback off of that, that reminds me of Amira Maris's experience, where she was a teaching assistant at an Islamic school, and the main teacher was teaching the children some Arabic, or I think it's Quranic script, and she was reading alongside it, and then afterwards the teacher came up to Amira and said, "Wow, sister, can you read Arabic?" And Amira, she literally just deserves a whole episode to herself.
She does.
Her anecdotes are so hilarious, but so to the point and so succinct. But anyway, Amira said, "Yeah, of course I can. Otherwise I wouldn't be reading it, would I?" And then the woman said, "Wow." And Amira was like, "Wow, why is she wowing me?" And I think the link between those two stories is ignorance. And sometimes it can be genuine, there's nothing meant behind it, but then it kind of indicates that there must be something that is feeding that ignorance and that people aren't willing to move away from.
Because we spoke about some statistics that came out many months ago with the Muslim Council in Britain, and we were talking about the percentage of Muslim in Britain and where they're from, right? Mm-hmm. And how Black Muslim population, Black Muslims make up 10% of the Muslim population of the country. And I don't remember if we got the full number for the South Asian demographic, but I would assume, given the historical references to colonialism and British Empire in that the demographic of the world, it does make sense. We get it, but it's also led to this problem where, in my opinion, it's taken the Muslim narrative in Britain and made it solely linked to Asian perspective, and how that doesn't link to people. So when people like Rakeen and Amira run into these people who also have that mindset that Muslims in this country are predominantly of South Asian heritage, they completely exclude anyone beyond that framework. I thought that episode, even in a light-hearted way, really brought that out to life. I thought it was really, really profound.
It was. And I think, what was another quirky one? When Aisha Morgan said that something to do with her being a revert, and somebody said, oh my gosh, you can't revert from, I can't remember, I'm literally trying to paraphrase. Do you know
I remember when she said how can you she was basically questioning that as someone who is black, that you can't convert to Islam, you can't convert to religion. And there was that consistent misunderstanding that to be Muslim you had to look a certain way, you had to be from a particular heritage. And I thought even in that experience she was like, what? Like, of course I can. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, it really, I think this episode really tackled really heavy issues, but also like combined that with some like light-hearted takes on it. And I think sometimes when you go through trauma, the later development of that in the future, it might not come immediately, but you do look back on it and kind of like, wow, that's actually like hilarious in the weirdest way possible. It's like, what on earth, how can you say such a thing? It's so dumb, and just laugh about it.
There's one more anecdote that I want to share as well, which our lovely co-producer Sakina shared, and she said that when she was younger, people would say, oh, if you're Muslim, if you're really Muslim, then you recite Surah Al-Fatiha. And she was like, no, you recite Surah Al-Fatiha. And I think hands down that was the most favorite anecdote, because when you look back on the comments on our videos, you'll see a lot of people like tagging their friends, say, oh look, Sakina said that, which is true. I think sometimes you have to prove how Muslim you are as a black person within the Ummah, which I don't feel you should. You should just take it for gospel if somebody tells you that they're a Muslim, Yeah,
and I feel that Amira touched it really well in the episode, where she even talks about dress. So she goes beyond language, and she goes beyond what you're supposed to look like as a Muslim in Britain. And she talks about adopting certain cultural attires from different communities, and how that's framed as this is what Islam looks like in Britain, right? So I remember me growing up in South London, it was kind of like, for you to be on deen, for you to be practicing, you had to wear thobe.
White phobes.
You had to wear thobe above the ankles.
And your crepes.
White, fresh white Air Forces is usually the kind of trend, right? and whatever, it could be a kufi or it could be something else. But a lot of it was really like centered around Arab culture. And there was this like strain between, well, in order for you to look the part, you have to look this way, and I was just kind of like, well, that's how you look as a Muslim. And I feel that's really profound when we look at dress and how that influences people's understanding of what Islam is supposed to look like, and that just causes unnecessary strain or people who are outside that framework.
And I think it also touches on the fact that maybe how we perceive Islam to be in Britain, it's a marrying of culture and religion, and if we were to take away certain aspects that can be deemed as cultural, so for example dress or food, or the way in which people observe certain days of celebration, then maybe that could be a way in kind of like a reconciliation of the issues that we find with anti-blackness within the community, possibly.
Yeah, most certainly. Right, we're going to go on a break. So please keep on in the conversation. Do not go anywhere. And we'll still be here after the break. And we have a special guest, the super awesome Ayo Olatunji, who'll be joining us as our guest today to the BME officer of UCL, University College London, and he'll be chatting about his own experiences as a black Muslim, as a black student, as a black Muslim student, all the nuances you can think of. And he'll be joining us to share some of his experiences and stories. And we will be right away. Stay tuned. Black and Muslim in Britain takeover. Ramadan FM. Peace.
Was on 0208 478 8911.
Ramadan FM 2018.
The voice of British Muslims.
MR Accountants provide a full range of accountancy and taxation services, including annual and management accounts, self-assessment, tax returns, VAT, bookkeeping and payroll services to all different types of businesses. With our in-house chartered accountants, you can be guaranteed to save money. Contact us now on 0203 432 9138.
कितनी बार कहा है कि घर को साफ रखा करो, मैं तो थक गई हूँ सफाई कर करके।
उफ, ये कॉकरोच, चूहे, कीड़े मकोड़े घर में घुस आए हैं। कहाँ जाऊँ, किसको बुलाऊं?
माँ, बहन, बीवी और बच्चे, किसी को भी इंसेक्ट्स नहीं लगते हैं ये अच्छे। So don't worry, I'll call City Pest Control. Deal with cockroaches, mice, rats, bed bugs, fleas, flies, all types of insects and rodents. 0203 633 0080 or 0770 279 8808. www.cpestc.com. City Pest Control, large enough to cope, small enough to care. All our technicians are British Pest Control Association qualified, and we are regulated by the Royal Society of Public Health.
This Ramadan, visit Abbas for all your meat and poultry needs. We buy only the highest quality meat and are HMC registered. We've got some amazing offers on all our products this Ramadan, and we provide free local delivery for all our customers. We also cater for restaurants and large events, so no matter how big or small your order is, Abbas is the name to remember. Visit us now at 51 to 53 Upton Lane, Forest Gate, E7 9PA, or call us at 0208 472 5742. Abbas, the name to remember.
Yo! Hey, we are back. We are back. And
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
And welcome back. You are listening to Black and Muslim in Britain with Saraya and Mohammed from Black and Muslim in Britain.
Woo woo.
Before the break, we were talking about stereotypes of black and Muslims in Britain and sharing some of our own experiences. Mohammed.
Yes, we are back and we are good to go, and we are joined by the most talented and wonderful Ayo Olatunji. I think he deserves a round of applause.
You're actually too kind. Too kind.
No, literally, you are the gem of the ummah at the moment. We need to protect you at all costs, mashallah.
Actually too kind. You're doing the most. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Just want to say thank you. Very humbled and appreciative to have this platform. Should I bring the mic closer? Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. I just want to say I'm very humbled and appreciative to have this platform, to be here. I don't know if there's a first question given, but yeah, my name's Ayo Olatunji. I'm from UCL. I go to UCL University. I study medicine there. I've taken a year out from medicine to work in the Students' Union as the Black Minority Ethnic Officer full time. So basically, I represent all non-white students on a day-to-day basis. So that's like my full-time job. So. That's a pretty awesome job. Yeah, awesome, interesting word.
And I can imagine it will be as well as awesome in the, when you are having great experiences as a BME officer. I'm sure that comes with a lot of obstacles and challenges.
I think it comes with a responsibility. I always say this: there's no manual for leadership. You go into these positions and you don't know what you're gonna find. You don't know what you're gonna experience. There's no a proper way to deal with things. You sort of have to find your way and tread test the waters. Should I go here? Should I do this? And I feel that there's a load of understanding, talking and reading people. I've listened. I think in the past how long? 11 months now. My job ends in a month. I hand over to my successor. I've met, I don't think 1,500 people is a bad estimate. Wow. So it's a very short space of time, maybe even up to 2,000 people I've had proper conversations with. So it's over and over and over. You're always meeting people, and it's just so it's very overwhelming at points. There's so much going on around you, and you have to consider everything. make sure you behave and act in the right way, and you're doing things right, and there's always this expectation and pressure. But alhamdulillah, Islam has kept me like just sane through all of that. So alhamdulillah, that's all I can say.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Just a quick question.
Of course.
So I can imagine that being an officer of that nature has its own difficulties.
Yeah.
But how would you say it has positively impacted you?
I definitely think it's made me more resilient. So a lot more things that come my way, I'm able to deal with them, and able to deal with them methodically as well. I can have a strategy, and I also sort of consult people on the best way to do things, because often the things I deal with will not just be things to do with me or be to do with others. So it's always important to consult them to make them feel part of that process. I think maybe, I don't want to say wise, but I've become more understanding, I guess. I think when I came into stuff, I was very naive, probably a bit too trusting. So I don't know if the word is like become more like worldly, not worldly. I don't know what to say, but yeah, I'm just able to pick out like what is genuine and what isn't genuine. Like have that sort of foresight. I think I've met a lot of great people and listened to their experiences, and I've done my best to incorporate that into my work. I think with all of us, like everyone in this room and everyone in like who's listening is doing like different bits of work, and we've all been made who we are because people have supported us, critiqued us, maybe in good ways, maybe in bad ways, but everything they have done has made us the people we are today, and has made us able to face what we're facing today. So everyone that's ever, in a good or bad way, supported me or critiqued me, I'm thankful for all of those experiences in some way, shape or form, because I wouldn't even be like sitting here today if it wasn't for all of that. Yeah. But that's that sort of hindsight. When you're in the moment, you're just there like, wow, this is hot, this is bad, like find it hard to deal with this. But yeah, in hindsight, that's what I sort of think. So yeah.
I want to take it back to when we first met, and it was a really fascinating sort of introduction to who you were on a public platform, for us anyway, immediately beyond the social media world. So where we met Ayo, or where we came across Ayo, was at the Black and Muslim in Britain screening. So last year, October 1st, we took over, another takeover, we took over Birkbeck University. And we had an event screening our episodes before they were released, so giving everyone a sneak preview, actually a full-on preview, giving them every episode of what to expect, of what episodes are being released, and have a conversation. And during the Q&A, Ayo stood up to ask the question, and you talked about, actually, do you want to tell the story more?
I can't even remember. What did I ask?
I remember, I think you just wanted to raise a point. I don't think there was a question.
Okay.
And then you mentioned your immediate challenges as being someone who just recently embraced Islam, and then you said, oh yes, I embraced Islam a few months ago, and everyone's like, whoa.
I was so surprised, like everyone was like, what? I was just like
and that was kind of like your introduction. We were like, well, we should get to know this amazing brother more, and see how we can share his stories, his really unique stories about his experience as a Black Muslim, and that was probably your first few months into your being an officer role.
It was.
So I'm going to ask you the most fun question that everyone who embraces Islam gets asked.
Yeah.
Tell us your revert story, Akhi.
Revert story.
Brother, please.
Go on. Do you know, this is something so I've been in conversations where maybe someone asks me, oh yeah, revert, and I'm like, yeah, and they're like, what's your story? And they come with this like whole energy, and I'm like,
it's like a phenomenon, right?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Literally, I think even like the first week I reverted like on my campus, because like there's a big Muslim community. I think when anybody reverts, everyone's always like, oh, what's going on? So it spread around. I think I was getting asked quite a few times a day, and I was like, whoa, is it that deep? I didn't even know it was a bigger thing. But alhamdulillah, basically, where to start? I think I'll try and shorten it as well. I think from a young age, like I'd sort of lived in poverty for a while. I had experienced sort and seen, witnessed sort of different forms of abuse, like sort of typical, like was quite sort of traumatic at different points, and I think that sort of seeing those things as you're growing up can make you quite irate. It can make you angry. I think I was quite angry. I definitely had issues with that, but I think my anger was very much in terms of the way it was perceived. It was exaggerated by individuals around me, especially I went to a lot of white majority schools.
Right.
So I think they saw me in I was held to a higher standard than the other kids. So one kid could say, get annoyed at something, at what the teacher did, and the teacher would let it go. If it was me, it'd be like, oh, you don't talk to us like this, you don't react like that, why are you huffing and puffing, and go to detention, this, that. So we can do the same behaviors, and I'm always held to a higher standard. And I didn't really understand the concepts of skin color. This is from about 6, 7, 8 years old, right? So I started to ask myself, what's the difference between me and them? And then I just started to clock, oh, like there's a difference in skin color. So sort of growing up through that, I was always like pushed into anger management, which made me even more angry. And I think living in poverty does something to you where you just, especially as a child, like you see other kids around you getting everything they want, Xbox, takeaways, everything, like anything they want. They'll come into school with all of these things, and there's you coming in with like, and it's not as if my parents didn't try. They tried so much, but everyone has their limits, right? But you're coming in with, and you have so much less than they do, and you're looking at envy. You're looking at it with envy, and it just so much is going around, and just being surrounded by being in that environment of poverty and seeing abuse. It does start to get to you slowly. And I think as a child, you don't really know how to deal with that. So I grew up, as I was growing up, I got involved in gang violence at some points, youth violence, those sort of things. It was something that just made sense to me. Not like I was just like, the world is telling me I'm angry, I feel angry, so I'm going to do things to let that off. You can make quick money, so that's your ticket out of poverty, right? All of these things, it just makes so much sense when you're in that mindset at that time. I got out of that, and my parents, one thing they really stressed on was education, right? Very big on education, so they took out loans in order to send me to private school. And I also went there on some bursaries and scholarships, loads of different things. Because I think there's a very big immigrant mentality. Specifically, you look at African household, education is a massive thing, massive thing. So they were like, if we can send him into private education, we're giving him his best shot possible to actually get a good education and him to go to a good university and set himself up. And I really do appreciate them for doing that. I'm forever indebted. And hopefully once I get my own income, I can start sliding some of the fees back. Inshallah. Inshallah.
There's a price.
Trust me. But I think after that, my boarding school was quite white, and I feel like I was subject to a lot of underlying treatments there, treatment by teachers, treatment by individuals. I was put in so they used to put us in sets. They used to try and push me down to the bottom sets because teachers had problems with me, or I always felt very unstimulated. So that's always the thing. If I'm unstimulated, I just act out. And that was characterized as me, trying to disrupt all of these things. So they sort of push me down. And even when I was trying to apply for medicine, my mentor was trying to discourage me. He talked about me basically while I was in the room with other people, saying, yeah, Ayo can't really apply to that place, he doesn't have the grades. And I'm literally right there. So all of these things just getting into my head, and very few people believed in me. But I just worked. And I think at this point I was very engulfed in what you'd call maybe the Western lifestyle. I was drinking, I was going out, and I was doing these things quite repetitively. Not too much at this point, but I was getting very involved in that. And it was like everyone around you is telling you, yeah, it's natural, this is what you should do, this is what's normal. So I was like, and it helped me at least cope with my issues to some extent, right? I'd also, during A-levels, had a lapse with some traumatic incidents that happened early on in my life. So I was trying to deal with all of these things. I developed depression and something called obsessive compulsive disorder. So basically, what happens is that I would literally obsess. So I think when people think of OCD, they think of like putting shoes or like having like weird like tics with stuff. But it was literally like I would obsess over thoughts and things in my head over and over and over and over and over, and I wouldn't be able to stop that cycle. So imagine you have one thought, maybe like, oh, I don't know, something like, I don't look good today, and you just tell yourself, no, I look good, and you get over it. That thought, for example, would go over in my head for any period from like a day to a week to a month, that same thought, and I couldn't stop it. So it's over and over and over. So I was having to do my A-levels and I was getting very ill. So when I get stressed, I literally break out. I could get a rash all over my body, viral infections, all sorts of things, chest infections. So I was dealing with that, trying to apply to medical school. Alhamdulillah, by the will of Allah, I got through to UCL. But I think I still had this sort of spiritual disturbance, right? And then I think at this point, because uni is, especially when you're in first year, this whole thing around drinking alcohol is very, very, very normalized. Very normalized. Even people who are severe alcoholics, like they're just left like, oh yeah, like get those pints and all those sorts of things. It's really encouraged. So I kept engulfing myself in that. And even my friends around me who would drink to a moderate level were like, you know, this is getting a lot, but it was how I was coping. It's the only thing I knew, like how to cope. And previously I'd never had a connection with God. So I never ever had that connection with God. Like I didn't know what that felt like. I'd see people saying they just like, wow, like I can really feel God like in my heart. And I was just like, can't relate. I literally cannot relate. So half my family is Muslim, as my stepfather is a Christian, but he converted from Islam. So half that side is literally Muslim. So I've always been around Islam. So I was like, okay, let me go further and just like look into it a little bit. Like, and then also when I was looking at my campus, the Muslims on campus do a big sort of drive for Charity Week. So I was seeing all of that charitable, like it was so selfless. And I think obviously we cannot stand here and say Muslims are perfect, but I saw the behaviors they were trying to emulate and what they were trying to achieve. Again, everybody's flawed, but I saw what they were trying to go for, and I really was just like, wow. Like that's why I personally believe the best dawah is in your actions. You don't even need to speak. People start asking, why are Muslims behaving like that? Why are they so like this? Why are they so like this? Why are they so charitable? Why are they so forgiving? This is why dawah is like through actions. Personally, I think is the most important. It makes people ask questions. And then I was just like, you know what? Let me just order Quran offline and see what this thing's saying. Like I was just like, I was very confident in myself. I was like, you know, I'm just reading. Like it's just out of curiosity, because some people are like suggesting to me, oh, like have you ever thought about Islam? And I was getting a bit stubborn. Like, why is everyone telling me? Like I know myself. Like I'm just looking. So I started reading it, and after I just opened like the first chapter, I was just like, there's just power in this. Like, and I just felt my first connection with God ever, and it was so overwhelming. And I didn't know how to pray, so I just got up. I wasn't even praying in the direction of the Kaaba. I was like, let me just. I did a YouTube video of how to like make wudu. It was very shoddy. The prayer again was very shoddy. I didn't know how to do anything, but I was doing the general movements, and I was just like, wow, like a peace and a stillness in my heart I've never ever felt in my life. Like, is what I felt. This is a year ago when I reverted, alhamdulillah. And after that, I just knew I was decided. I was like, I don't know when I'm going to revert, but I know that this is for me. Like, I've never ever had this feeling in my life of this connection. And I just kept building on and building on and building on. And I think it wasn't a smooth transition, stopping certain things, going out, drinking all of these things. And a lot of my non-Muslim friends had to get to grips with this new lifestyle per se that I was living. I think there was a party that happened like a few months after I reverted, and someone was like, oh, why isn't Ayo here? And then someone replied, oh, he's Muslim now. And then the person replied, oh, he's still on that. I was like, what? It's not just like a thing I'm dipping my toes in, like
a little phase.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a phase, but I really like, I read the Quran, I really like looked into what the religion and I didn't even deep how many misconceptions, because I think when I started coming closer to it, a lot of people start asking me questions. Oh, why do women have to wear the hijab? Why do you guys fast? like, why this, why that, why? And I was just like, whoa, chill. Like, I'm also like learning about these things as well. But I felt like I became, like, especially to my non-Muslim friends, like a spokesman, because they had never had any like contact with it before. And I think, alhamdulillah, a lot of them have a lot more understanding and a lot more sympathetic to it. So that's sort of the shortened version. And I did my first fast, so I reverted, I think, a couple of weeks before Ramadan. Wow. So I'd never fasted before. Fasting was, at some point, it's quite peak. Like, it was really peak. I think because the sun was beaten down hard as well. And I think, obviously, going back to that time, the Grenfell happened. So we were all volunteering out there, and it was very hot. Like, the sun was beaten down. So there's so many things going on. But yeah, alhamdulillah, I'm here.
Alhamdulillah.
Talking about fasting, I'm not even exaggerating. I had to turn my mic off because my belly rumbled. I was like, wow, because I think you guys would have picked it up.
Yeah, that's mad.
I wanted to talk about some of the content in our series, and there was a lot. It was really there was a reoccurring theme of racism within the Muslim community in the series. So whether it's from like a microaggression from even like a little child asking you, are you Muslim because you're in a mosque? Which is one really interesting, and to asking someone whether they can speak Arabic or not and being wowed by it. I've also got really like I recently spoke to a friend of mine. I'm not going to mention his name, but he was telling me a story, and for me this is probably the worst story I've heard when it came to like racism from the Muslim community. He was a student at a northern university in England, or North England, and he gave the adhan at the student event, and there was a guest speaker like an imam, and he gave the adhan, and then the imam said to him at the end of the adhan, he goes, "MashaAllah, your voice is so powerful, I can tell you came from slavery." And when this brother told me this, wallah, to this day I said to this brother, what? I was like, what? And Imam said this. I was literally like, even now telling the story, I'm getting stressed.
That is mad.
So like, this is like some of the day-to-day reality. And I wish we'd had this person for the series. Yeah. Because he only told me this about a few months ago.
Will he come on the next one?
Maybe I can chase him up. I won't mention his name because I haven't asked his permission, so I'm not going to cite who he is. But when he told me this story, and I probably told it weird anyway, when he told me this story, I was like, I've never been more angry in my life. And I thought for me, that was the height of racism in the Muslim community. Have you experienced that? Do you know people who've experienced, whether it's direct or a microaggression?
I think it's varied. So when I first came into the community, I'd sort of read the Quran and I'd seen what Islam is about and what it advocates. So I came in with a lot of expectations of what the community would be like. I did think they would be perfect, which obviously doesn't make sense, but it just shows my sort of naivety. So I remember it was during Ramadan, I came into a mosque, and I just sort of had my hair like re-dreaded, relocked, and then I just finished praying, and then I could feel someone looking at me. So I just was like, "Oh, assalamu alaikum," and he's like, "Oh, assalamu like, Aki, I just need to tell you, your hair's not Islamic. It's just not Islamic." And I was just like,
what's not Islamic about it?
The thing is, like, I was obviously
what's
still
Islamic
new.
hair?
That's the thing. I was still very new, so I was just like, "Oh, is this not?" And I was just feeling very like, "Oh, I didn't even say sorry, but I was just like, "Oh, thanks for telling me." Like, but he was also like, obviously going, "Look, I'm not a sheikh or anything, but it doesn't look very Islamic." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I went to a second mosque and I received a similar comment and added with, "You look like a footballer." And I was just like, "Oh," like, and he's, that hair though, it's not really fit. And I was like, this is twice in a day, by the way.
Oh my God.
What, in one day?
Yeah, it was twice in one day. So after
same mosque?
No, it's two different mosques. So I was very I was just going different places, just trying to see what they like. So I was just going about, and then two different mosques in a day, and I was just like, rah, like I came out of the second time, that was during Ramadan, I was just so downtrodden, like, but I was with some of my friends and they who helped me like on my journey, and they were like, "Yeah, that's not right, like don't worry, like he's just chatting rubbish, like some of the older generation like this and that. But I think it's not even just older generation, younger generation can be like that as well. But I was just flabbergasted. I was like, wow. And obviously I didn't know, because there's such a breadth of like Islamic knowledge, so I didn't know whether he was right or wrong at this point. And I was very new, so I was just like, okay, like I think something that we have found in terms of like ISOCs on campuses, I have been told at different points, by different people from different ISOCs, different places, that anti-blackness doesn't exist in the Ummah. And then maybe when we gave them some evidence, they were like, okay, it doesn't exist in the student community. So I've worked with FOSIS, Federation of Islamic Student Societies, and I went to their conference and I delivered a workshop on anti-blackness and racism, just showing them how it works and different things. A lot of people are forthcoming, but I think also there are some people who sometimes don't know they're making problematic statements. But I think there are sometimes people who do know they're making problematic statements, and they just want to sometimes get a reaction out of you. And it's sort of like these, like, also that there's also this thing around how Islam is colorblind, and I don't believe that to be true. I think there's either a hadith or a passage in the Quran how we were made into different tribes so we may know one another. And we were all made differently for a purpose. Like Allah made us differently for a purpose, so that we can celebrate those differences, right? But it's our community, through different influences and different problems, that has now turned differences into things that we demonize and dehumanize instead of celebrate. I mean, I think there's this whole thing around exotification as well. So I've had a lot of it does center around hair. So I've had people who, they won't even salam me, they've just come to touch my hair as if I'm like something in like a petting zoo.
Where?
I'm not gonna say where, but it's just happened. It's happened.
I mean, okay.
Did you sing that Solange song? Don't touch my hair.
You know those ones where you think you'll have a thing to say, but it's like you can't always be prepared for that to happen. Like, so I'll just look around like, whoa, like I had to come back like this, like, do you know what I mean? And there's little aggravations like that. I think, just thinking off the top of my head, I think when we look at being black and Muslim, right, there isn't a problem with like being Arab and Muslim or being South Asian and Muslim. Some people may say, oh, it's not about black, it's more about nationality. But blackness is like a very, not every person who is black will affiliate with their nationality, because that's not what they connect with, because of different reasons within all of our histories, right? Blackness is what we connect with more. But I find that there's this whole negative perception around what blackness is, and a very sort of monolithic view of what it is. So when you attach it with Muslim, it's like, nah, that's incompatible. It doesn't go with Muslim, like it can't. Like, I think we've seen some stuff around like people hosting like black iftars and things like that, and it's just like, we're not saying that we want to take ourselves away from the Ummah. We're just saying that we are pushed out and marginalized a lot of the time. Like, we just want to have like a night where we can not have to worry about if someone's going to make a comment on, are you Muslim? Are you a proper Muslim? Are you this? Are you that? Can I touch your hair? All of these sorts of things, right? And I think people always look at black people, people in our community, Muslim community, sometimes look at black people as being like this angry group, this very angry group. And this group, I think there's also this thing of that people think we're more likely to fall into haram than any other group. So if you look at black music, right, everyone will be quick to say that's haram. Arabs and South Asians have their music as well, but we're not the same sort of pointing, like doesn't go on. And Bollywood is a lot more accepted, like into South Asian community, like around music and like, acting and stuff, right? When it's black music, it's like no. I think another thing is around protests. So if we're protesting Palestine, if we're protesting, I think even when we were doing, we did some stuff with the Rohingya, less people come out to say, oh, it's haram, or they bring in, less people bring out the fatwas where it's like protesting is haram. But when it's Black Lives Matter, everybody's up in arms. And I'm like, wow, it just shows, because the same people who would make noise, like, I'll go to any sort of protest and cause, like, because it's just the right thing to do, right? But I also keep an eye on what people are going to, what they're speaking out on. And I think even Omar Suleiman actually made a very good point around the Stephen Clark murder in America. When we saw it was a black brother, most of the Muslim community just didn't really like bat an eyelid. And then when he was a Muslim, may Allah grant him the highest level of Jannah. Like, and it's just like, you shouldn't have had to clock he was a Muslim, like, for you to even be saying that, like, a death is a death. You know, it's sacred. But those are some of the things I found. But there's just a lot of inconsistencies with criticisms and standards within our community, and it's just like, it just, and even within that as well, right? Like, there are just loads of, like, identities are very politicized in today's society. You can't just be Muslim, you can't just be black, you can't just be black or Muslim. Like, you will always embody all of these identities, right? And I feel like even within wider black community, like, there's a problem with Islamophobia. So you see this very, like, black Muslims are like, it always happens on the timeline, like, every couple of months, like, these discourses, and it's like black Muslims will always be in the middle, like, where do we tread? And it's just like, we exist, guys, sort of thing.
Like, hi, over
do you know what I mean? We're here. Another interesting thing as well, I've been called a Rasta Muslim as well, which is a bit weird. Like, I've heard people whispering it, like, while I'm doing my salah, like, before.
A Rasta Muslim, that sounds like something from CBeebies.
Yeah, no, do you know what I mean? It's a bit weird. And I think, I don't know if everybody remember that video that was circulating of a brother with very long dreads who was leading prayer. And then the caption was, don't judge a book by its cover. Look, this brother's voice is so beautiful. And I was just like, I don't see the correlation, like, between what are you judging him over? Like, he can have his hair that long and still be like a great reciter or like lead salah like perfectly well.
Ayo, let me pose a counter argument, because clearly you are very passionate about race relations, and more so with race relations within the Ummah. Some can say that there's too much focus on race, and that it's always about racism. We always speak about racism, and black Muslims always go on about being black and focusing on race. Do you feel as though we have a chip on our shoulder? Do you feel as though we should use our voices and our platforms to speak about other issues, or do you feel as though this is a statement which shouldn't even be uttered?
Interesting. I've had those sort of sentiments said before. I think it's sort of like, it's a bit of a privilege to say, we shouldn't discuss anti-blackness anymore. Like, we discuss it too much, and I feel like that works in any dynamic where
post-racial,
do you know what I mean? Literally, where an individual is like is suffering discrimination or oppression. It's like, don't discuss it. But it's like that individual who's discussing it and constantly talking about it and suffering through it doesn't have that privilege to say, okay, I'm going to take a break for this today. Like, it's something that's always in their face and they always have to think about and deal with. So I think it's just a thing of putting yourself in the shoes of a black Muslim. Why do they always go on about it? Because it's their experience, and they just want to see a change, a genuine change from their siblings in Islam, their brothers and sisters in Islam. They actually just want to see things change. And I feel like one of the tenets in our faith is empathy, like understanding people. And I feel like we can actually do so much more as a community to try and understand. And I feel like at the moment that there are people who think we just have that chip on our shoulder. And I think that comes again from the perception of blackness, what black people will behave like and are. And I think particularly what I've seen with sisters, and you'll be able to say this even better than me, in terms of if you raise something, like, everyone's going to be like, you're being so aggressive, sister. Like, why are you? I've seen that happen before. So.
Oh, yeah, to the point where you have to kind of like police how you behave in certain arenas. And I feel I've not really experienced that much within the Ummah, but working in an environment where I am the minority, I find that if I encounter conflicts within a professional capacity, I have to think 3 times before I even react, because I don't want my reaction to be taken out of context and be labelled as the angry black woman. Yeah,
I think as well, like, there are a lot of crossovers between how non-Muslims will treat black Muslims. It's very hard, because how do I explain it? It's like I'm trying to think what I'm getting at.
I think I understand. Sometimes when non-Muslim black people interact with black Muslims, they feel as though And it also depends on the strain of Pan-Africanism
Yeah,
you
yeah.
follow.
Oh, okay, cool.
But if you are following that religion, ultimately you shouldn't be following that religion because it's the religion of an oppressor.
Yeah, that's very big. That's a very big theme. So a lot of the discourse in some like black Pan-African spaces is like Islam enslaved us, it came by the sword, and just and I think there is an aspect of truth to that. We can't hide history, but I think also at the same time there's a big thing of it also spread peacefully by trade. And even, you know, when it wasn't spread by ways which were peaceful and good, I think all those people have their judgments, and that there will be a reckoning for all of that. But I think there's a lot of misinformation spread around, and I think there's also this thing of, it's very odd, right? In different spaces, I'll be treated just as black, right? And then sometimes I'll be treated just as Muslim. Or I may be treated as a combination of both, and it depends on what people see first. So if they aren't Muslim and they're not black, it's very interesting to see what they see first. So depending on what event I'm at or what I'm speaking on and what language I use, you know, if somebody sees me saying Assalamu alaikum, I may not be looked at as being black as much anymore now. It's more a thing of, oh, now you're Muslim. So it's so in and out in terms of what people perceive you at, and I feel like sometimes I'm having to like preempt what people will perceive me at, so I know how to react and sort of behave around them, I guess.
So if we look back at if we look back at episode 2 about the strangest things, and I feel like I totally agree with the whole privileged point of view. To even you must have a privilege when you say to someone why you're always talking about racism, because there isn't that immediate experience from the Muslim community to those who aren't black, and they have the audacity to make these claims, and I feel like that's kind of like coupled with, oh no, Muslims can't be racist, Bilal's black, or and various examples, and that's the problem, right? No one's saying the religion is racist. We're saying the attitudes and the manifestation of Muslims, their own ignorance, is the problem, and this is what we're trying to solve, right? So with that in mind, I think we have no choice but to discuss racism, as the episodes covered it really well, and both humorous and both very serious matters, and challenging it. So what is the solution? How can we solve racism within the Muslim community, within the Muslim grand ummah? How can we solve this very dark problem that has been tackled by the Prophet, peace be upon him? But how do we solve it in this modern day?
I think one of the black Muslims that everybody uplifts is Malcolm X. It's very interesting. He was definitely a prominent black Muslim. There were a lot of others, especially sisters. Soraya Bukhari is one who you should really look into. Everybody's listening. Part of the Black Panther Party. But I think when we look at Malcolm X, he was somebody who was so staunch in the way he thought around that races can never mix. There can never be any sort of peace because of different things, or to get to that point is almost impossible because of the way things are. But when he found Orthodox Islam, Sunni Islam, and moved away from the Nation of Islam, he changed his whole mindset completely, and that was because of his journey to Saudi Arabia, and that's when he sort of realized being white is a mentality. It's more of a mentality, because there were very light-skinned, white-skinned people there. Because in that time, Middle Easterns and Arabs were considered white, who didn't behave like the white men back in America, and that's why he said sort of Islam has all the tenets there. I think I'm right in saying it's the only Abrahamic faith to explicitly say that a black person does not have any superiority over a white person over a black person, and an Arab over a non-Arab, and a non-Arab over an Arab, explicitly, right? So I think all the tenets are there. It's just Muslims need to get to that point. And I think the last thing is, when we look at imams and sheikhs, right, they talk on a lot of issues from an Islamic perspective, but in order to talk on any issue, whether it be discrimination against women, racism, anti-blackness, you need to have a sort of social understanding of how it works as well, coupling it with the Islamic understanding. So I think usually they only have the Islamic understanding, which means they talk around the subject very brashly, or even go to the point of being racist, like the example you gave. So I think these are the things. We just need that earnest dialogue. But I think whichever, if you, whoever the group is that is being discriminated against, if you aren't in that group, just give them the time of day to listen to them. It's just so easy, like, just listen.
Ayo, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So you've been listening to Black and Muslim in Britain on Ramadan FM 2018. We're going to round up now because this is our time. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah. I think this is really special that we can have such an open and frank discussion about the experiences of what it means to be Black and Muslim in Britain on Ramadan FM. And I think that's a really big deal, right? Even in the context of Ramadan, to be honest and truthful, and to spread goodness, and to also use this as a time to reflect and better ourselves. And if this is an opportunity where people can look deep down inside and wonder if any of the discussions that were shared on this documentary or on this show as well has an impact on me, maybe I can use this as an opportunity to take away this as an educational lesson and become a better person.
Absolutely.
A better Muslim.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So yeah, thank you. Ramadan Affair, we're back next Saturday for another takeover, and we'll be discussing being black and finding love. Whoop, whoop.
Mad.
Bring out your Muzmatch app, bruh.
Or not.
Or not. If you want to, find another way to fall in love in this modern day and age.
Why not just keep it traditional?
Yeah, keep it traditional and send us your ideas. My name is Mohammed. Shout out to Soraya and our super guest. What's your name, bro? I know. Ayo.
Too kind.
This has been great. Make sure you tune into Ramadan FM. Loads of awesome shows, including tomorrow. Ramadan FM have the very well respected
and prolific
D Squad are taking over tomorrow. So that's a plug for Ramadan FM and their shows coming up. So tune into that. We will. Thank you very much. Peace. Assalamu alaikum.